Hi everyone, we're Mimicker, here to introduce all kinds of knowledge, even the stuff we didn't know about. Today, you've brought us a really vital and, let's be honest, often emotionally charged topic. Elderly driving.
Absolutely.
It's something that touches almost all of us, directly or through people we care about. Because it's not just about road safety.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's about that fundamental right to get around, stay connected, maintain dignity as we age. So this deep dive, we're going to try and go beyond just gut feelings.
Exactly. And it's not a simple yes or no question, is it? But we'll need to look at it from, well, multiple angles.
Yeah.
We've got scientific data. We'll compare how different countries handle it and look closely at the sort of delicate balance they're trying to strike.
Between individual rights and keeping everyone safe on the roads.
Precisely. So our mission today really is to understand how we can protect road safety, but also uphold the quality of life and, importantly, the dignity of our senior citizens. It's a challenge every aging society is facing.
That delicate balance you mentioned, that's key. And to figure out how to strike it, I guess we have to start with the science, right? What does the research actually tell us about how aging affects driving? Because, well, we're just not the same, physically or mentally, at 70 as we are at 30.
That's the core of it. The science shows driving is this really complex act. It needs good senses, quick thinking, fast physical reactions. And all those things, well, they naturally decline a bit with age.
And these aren't just minor things.
No, not at all. They're measurable changes that directly increase risk on the road. A big one is reaction time. Studies show drivers over 70, the reaction times are maybe 50% to 70% longer than younger drivers.
Wow, 50 to 70% longer, that fraction of a second.
It makes a huge difference. It means a much longer stopping distance. Often that's the difference between, avoiding a crash and being in one.
That fraction of a second is huge.
Yeah.
How does that specific delay show up in actual accidents? And what about vision? That's got to be critical for driving, and that declines too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Vision decline is comprehensive. You've got dynamic vision getting worse, that's seeing moving things clearly, like other cars or people walking.
Right.
Then the field of vision often narrows, less peripheral awareness, makes turns and lane changes much riskier.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then there's night vision and glare. Recovering from oncoming headlights takes much longer for older eyes. You can be temporarily blinded right when you need to see most clearly.
Oof, I can almost feel that glare sensitivity sometimes already. But okay, what about the thinking part? Driving isn't just seeing and reacting, it's processing info, making quick calls.
You've hit on a crucial point there. Cognitive processing bottlenecks. Driving today is just so complex, right? Your brain's juggling tons of information constantly.
Signals, mirrors, speed, pedestrians.
Exactly. Older adults can find it harder to focus. They might get distracted more easily. Multitasking becomes tougher. And then there's spatial judgment, judging speed and distance accurately. That can get impaired, leading to issues with passing, parking, turning.
And among all these cognitive bits, is there one that really stands out in research? Especially for those, really serious incidents like mistaking the pedals.
That often comes down to what we call executive dysfunction. It's like the brain's command center for planning, solving problems, controlling impulses.
Okay.
When that function declines, especially under stress, like in an emergency, the brain struggles. It can't process quickly or execute the right action. And that's exactly when you see those critical errors, like hitting the gas instead of the brake.
So those are the sort of physiological and cognitive reasons behind the risk.
Uh-huh.
But what do the actual accident statistics tell us? The hard numbers.
Well, the data is pretty sobering. If you look at U.S. stats, per mile driven, drivers over 70 have a higher fatal crash rate than any other adult group except for the very youngest drivers, those teenagers aged 16, 19.
So even if they drive less overall?
Their risk when they are driving is proportionally higher, yes. And their accidents tend to happen in specific situations, intersections, left turns, lane changes, places needing quick, complex judgment.
And tragically, if a crash does happen, the outcome is often worse for seniors, isn't it? Physically.
Much worse. Because of things like lower bone density, slower healing, seniors are far more likely to be severely injured or killed in a crash, even one that a younger person might walk away from.
A minor fender bender could be devastating.
Exactly. And we see this reflected in local data, too. Taiwan, for instance. Research from National Cheng Kung University found drivers over 75 were 2.44 times more likely to cause a pedestrian fatality.
Wow.
And get this, drivers over 81, just about 4% of the adult population, they were responsible for 5% of all fatal accidents where the driver was at fault.
Those numbers really hammer home the public safety aspect, don't they? It's not just a personal issue.
Absolutely. Connecting the dots, these physical and cognitive changes aren't just theories. They are statistically proven risk factors on our roads, and that really demands a thoughtful policy response.
Which brings us right to policy. So faced with this reality, how are different countries tackling it? You mentioned diverse strategies earlier.
We see a whole spectrum. Take the United States. There's no single federal law, right? It's up to each state.
So a patchwork approach.
Pretty much. Which means flexibility, but also inconsistency. Most states do things like shorten the renewal period for older drivers, make them come in person, require vision tests. California, for example, does that for everyone 70 and over.
Okay, that seems pretty standard. Are there stricter states?
Oh, yes. Illinois is a good example.
Hmm.
At 75, you need an in-person vision test. From 79 onwards, you need an actual on-road driving test every time you renew. And if you're 87 or older, you have to renew every single year.
An annual road test from 87. Wow. What about things like restricted licenses?
That's quite common in the U.S., too. Doctors, family, even police can report concerns about a driver. The DMV can then step in and issue a restricted license, maybe daylight driving only, or no highways, or stay within a 10-mile radius of home.
That sounds like a more humane way to handle it than just taking the license away completely. A middle ground.
It tries to be, yeah. Balancing safety with keeping some mobility.
So how does Europe compare? Is it more unified or just as varied?
Europe is definitely a mixed bag. The UK, for instance, really emphasizes self-declaration. Your license expires at 70, then you renew every 3 years just by stating you're medically fit.
So it's basically on you to be honest about your health.
It is, but if you conceal something important, you can face fines, so there's accountability. Then you have places like Germany and Sweden.
What do they do?
They go even further on personal responsibility. Licenses there are valid for life. No age-based checks at all. They rely on drivers, families, doctors to flag problems.
For life. Wow. Does that work?
Well, here's something fascinating. A study compared Finland, which does have mandatory medical exams at 70, with Sweden, which doesn't. They found no significant difference in accident rates between the two.
Really? No difference?
Not in overall driver accidents. But interestingly, Finland saw more elderly pedestrian casualties. The theory is more seniors lost their licenses in Finland and started walking more, putting them at risk in a different way.
Huh. That really raises a question about unintended consequences, doesn't it? Solving one problem might create another.
It absolutely does. It forces us to think about mobility as a whole system.
Are there other European models? Maybe a middle ground?
Yes, Italy and the Netherlands have regular medical checks. Italy requires one every 3 years from age 70. The Netherlands, every 5 years from 70, you need a medical report. And France, which used to be quite lenient, is now thinking about bringing in 5-year medical checks for drivers over 70. So you see a trend towards more checks even there.
Okay, now Japan. Everyone talks about Japan and aging. Their system is often held up as quite advanced, right?
It really is probably the most comprehensive. It's tiered. If you're 70 plus I, you have to take a senior driver lecture.
A lecture. Yeah.
Then at 75 plus I, you have to pass a mandatory cognitive function test. This screens specifically for dementia risk.
And if you fail?
You get referred for a full medical evaluation. If moderate or severe dementia is diagnosed, your license can be revoked. And since 2022, if you're 75 plus and have committed major traffic violations recently, you now also have to pass an on-road driving test.
So cognitive test plus a practical test for those with a poor record, that's thorough. Do they use technology?
Big time. Japan offers a special safety support car limited license. Seniors 75 plus can voluntarily apply for this, and it restricts them to only driving cars with things like automatic emergency braking, AEBS, and systems that prevent pedal mix-ups.
Using tech to compensate for declining abilities. Smart.
Very smart. And they also have really strong incentives for voluntarily giving up your license. Public transport vouchers, taxi discounts, discounts at shops. Hundreds of thousands do it every year.
That sounds incredibly holistic.
Yeah.
Safety, tech, support, choice. What about South Korea, another fast-aging Asian country?
South Korea is also tightening up. Drivers 75 plus renew every 3 years now, needing a medical exam, a cognitive test, and safety education. They're also pushing tech, looking at VR driving simulators for testing reaction times and hazard perception. The plan is to make those mandatory.
VR simulators, interesting. How are their surrender incentives working out?
Not so well, actually. They offer a small, one-time cash payment, but the public transport, especially outside big cities, isn't great. So the participation rate is really low, like 2%.
So that raises that crucial question again. If you don't provide real alternatives, the surrender programs just won't fly, will they?
Exactly. It has to be a complete package.
How about Singapore? Small city-state, great public transport.
Singapore's model is quite streamlined, very medically focused. From age 65, you renew every 3 years, and you need a certificate from a doctor saying you're fit to drive. Simple as that. If the doctor says no, you don't get renewed. It relies purely on medical judgment.
Relies on the doctors.
Okay.
And India, huge country, very different context.
India tries to balance things by just increasing the frequency of checks. Normally, a license is good for 20 years, but once you hit 70, it's only valid for 5 years at a time.
So it nudges people towards more regular self-assessment and medical checks without a hard age ban.
Precisely. More of an encouragement model.
These global examples really paint the picture of the different ways societies are wrestling with this. But, beyond the policies and stats, there's the human cost. Let's talk about some of those really high-profile accidents that shocked people and often directly led to policy changes.
Yeah, these are the stories that really bring the risks into sharp focus. And the common thread is often chillingly similar.
Which is?
Drivers typically in their 80s, sometimes older. And the cause, again and again, is mistaking the accelerator for the brake pedal. That critical failure of coordination in a panic moment.
With just devastating consequences, like the one in Sangxia, Taiwan,
Yep.
just recently in 2025.
Yes, a 78-year-old driver near a school hit the wrong pedal, 3 people killed, 12 injured. That absolutely ignited debate in Taiwan about whether their system was doing enough.
And there was that horrific incident in Santa Monica, California years ago.
Yeah.
The farmer's market.
George Weller, 86 years old, in 2003. Confused the pedals, drove through that crowded market, 10 killed, 70 injured. That became a textbook case cited constantly in the push for mandatory testing in the U.S., really brought it to national attention.
In Japan, which we discussed having a strict system now, they had a major trigger incident too, didn't they? Ikebukuro.
They did. In 2019, an 87-year-old man, Kozo Izuka, a former high-ranking official actually, ran a red light, hit the accelerator instead of the brake, killed a young mother and her daughter, injured 10 others.
Oh, terrible.
Because of his status, it caused huge public anger, and that directly led to Japan passing that 2022 law requiring on-road tests for older drivers who'd had recent violations. A clear link between tragedy and reform.
South Korea, too, you mentioned a similar pattern.
Yeah, Gangwon-do, 2025. An 80-year-old woman at a highway service area mistook the pedals, crashed her SUV right into a restaurant, 16 people injured. It's this recurring nightmare scenario.
And even the UK, with its self-declaration system.
Manchester, 2017. A 90-year-old man, a parking accident, but he reversed into 2 pedestrians, killing them. He seemed confused afterwards. While it didn't immediately change the law, it definitely fueled debate about the loopholes in self-reporting and whether doctors should play a bigger role.
It's undeniable. These terrible events, paid in blood, have really shaped how countries approach this. So bringing it back to Taiwan, which you said started managing this later, what can they learn? How can they build a better, more balanced future using these international lessons?
Well, Taiwan's current system, as we touched on, has some pretty big gaps. First, that screening age of 75 is high compared to many places.
Higher than Japan, the UK, Singapore?
Right, and the data shows accidents involving 70 to 74-year-olds in Taiwan are increasing, so 75 might just be too late to start checking.
And that grandfather clause loophole you mentioned, that sounds like a major blind spot.
It really is. Because the 2017 rules weren't retroactive, you have this whole cohort of people now in their 80s and 90s who were already over 75 back then and have never been assessed under the new system. It's a huge regulatory gap.
Hundreds of thousands potentially unassessed.
Potentially, yes. Plus, the assessment itself is pretty basic, just a physical and a simple cognitive screen. Doesn't actually test driving skills.
And the support system issue we keep coming back to.
Still a major weakness, especially outside the cities. If taking away a license means someone is essentially trapped at home, it's seen as cruel, not protective. Lack of good public transport is a huge barrier.
Okay, so given all that, what are the concrete recommendations for Taiwan, drawing on what works elsewhere? How do they get more precise and more humane?
I think we can frame it around 4 key ideas. First, strengthen screening for precision. Lower that mandatory renewal and assessment age, probably to 70, and make the assessment richer, Bring in things like VR driving simulators for hazard perception, like South Korea is planning, and crucially, follow Japan's lead. Require practical, on-road tests for older drivers who've had serious violations.
Get a real sense of their actual skills behind the wheel, not just on paper.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Second idea.
Second, provide support to protect mobility. Taiwan's plan to offer the TTS public transit pass for voluntary surrender is a start, but it needs way more muscle.
Like a
Expand those incentives massively, taxi vouchers, discounts for ride sharing or community transport, and the big one, seriously invest in alternative transport, especially rurally. Things like the Happy Bus community shuttles and demand-responsive transport systems, those bookable minibuses. People need to feel they can still get around easily without a car. Only then will tighter license rules be accepted.
Absolutely. The alternatives have to be real and convenient. What's the third point?
Third, implement flexible management for humanity. Set up a proper medical reporting system. Encourage doctors, maybe even require them to report patients with conditions that clearly make driving unsafe, like advanced dementia, Parkinson's, epilepsy, severe vision loss. That's much more targeted than just using age.
A case-by-case approach based on medical reality.
Exactly, and introduce those restricted licenses we talked about. For seniors who are still okay for simple local driving, let them. Daytime only, within a few miles of home. It respects their autonomy while managing risk.
Right, not just an all-or-nothing decision. And the fourth point, technology.
Yes, fourth, leverage technology to reduce human error. Follow Japan's safety support car idea. Use subsidies or tax breaks to encourage seniors to switch to cars with AEBS automatic braking and those systems that prevent pedal mix-ups.
Build safety nets into the cars themselves.
Exactly. If technology can compensate for slower reactions or momentary confusion at the source, that prevents accidents directly, especially those awful pedal mix-up tragedies.
Looking at those 4 points together, precision screening, mobility support, humane flexibility, and tech solutions, it really feels like a comprehensive strategy, tackling it from all sides.
That's the goal. An approach that's effective because it's multi-pronged, but also empathetic because it considers the whole person and their need for mobility and dignity.
This whole discussion really underscores that elderly driving isn't a simple issue, is it? It's this complex knot of public safety, individual rights, social support, even technological progress.
Absolutely. And the goal shouldn't be to paint all seniors with the same brush, label them dangerous, and take away their keys. That's unfair and counterproductive.
So the real aim is
to build a smarter system, one that's better at precisely identifying the individuals who genuinely pose a high risk, while at the same time building robust support systems so that everyone, even after they stop driving, can maintain their dignity, stay active, and live a full life.
It's about integrating that thoughtful screening, the real support, the flexible options, and the smart technology, moving towards a society that's truly inclusive for all ages. Which leaves us with a final thought, perhaps. What does it truly mean for you, listening right now, to live in a society where our elders can move about safely and independently with their dignity fully preserved? How do we make sure their golden years really are golden? Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. See you guys.